Welcome to Sister Sesh, the podcast where two stoner sisters, Alicia and Kat, guide you through the highs and lows of life, relationships, and sisterhood. Grab your joint, settle onto the couch, and join these two hilarious sisters as they share their unique experiences and laughter-inducing perspectives on a variety of topics. Get ready to light up and let the Sister Sesh begin.
Hey there, fellow stoners. Welcome to another episode of the Sister Sesh podcast, where we explore all things cannabis, mental health, navigate life, love, relationships, and so much more. I'm your host, Kat. I'm filing solo today. Alicia is out living her best life. We have not released episodes in 2 weeks due to scheduling and everything, so I just thought I'd just, reach out to you guys and see how you guys are doing. In what we talk about a lot in our podcasting journey is how I took the plunge to dive into cannabis as a treatment into treating my mental illness, and mental health is something we talk heavily about here, and how people navigate their holistic and plant medicine journeys. But today I wanted to dive into a topic that's really close to me, and I bet that it's close to a lot of many of you out there, and the challenges of being a cannabis patient along with being a mother. There are so many misconceptions that using cannabis somehow makes you less capable of a parent, and there are so many challenges to that stereotype. And I'm going to share with you my journey, my struggles, and how I've integrated cannabis into my treatment while trying to be the best mom that I can. So, like I've discussed in many previous episodes, but I'm just going to give you the short and rundown version for those of you who are new and coming back. Here's a little bit of my story. A while back, I found myself in the deepest, darkest depression of my existence. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't even fathom a thought. My anxiety was so high. I was very snappish at everybody around me, and I just could not function for the life of me. And for one thing, when you become a parent, it really is like a magnifying glass into your childhood and the type of parent you were. And Alicia and I have really dived deep into like what our different perceptions and our different experiences of having a parent that was an addict. My mom was a heroin addict for 20 years. So it took a toll on a lot of things, and a lot of things that she decided that she thought was best for us, we took to heart. And Alicia navigated it in a way different way than I did. And she shares that a lot on here on the podcast. But I was the most sensitive and most, emotionally in tune kind of galley. And my mother is a very stoic woman, so she doesn't show much emotions. She was always taught that, that's like weakness. And those are the things that she tried to imprint into her parenting. But as I was grasping on the weight of the childhood trauma that I had never truly addressed, that I was getting intense flashbacks, and I really could not function in my day-to-day reality. I just had a new baby. My journey to parenthood was totally and utterly different than most. I became a step parent before I actually had a biological child of my own, and that's a different aspect. I had to learn to co-parent in a way that wasn't more forthcoming. I made decisions, and my husband and I made decisions together, but he was my sound piece. He was my speaking board. He advocated for me in parental decisions. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to legality, it's him and her making those decisions for our child. And how do you show up? My son is very grateful to have 4 parents who truly love and care for him. And for the first days of school, all 4 of us show up. We make it a thing, and it really shocks most people that, like, when we go to introduce ourselves, this mom, this dad, this stepmom, me, their stepdad, and all of those above. How do you navigate those things? And then now him and I have a child of our own. So the way we navigate parental decisions is totally different. It's like direct and forthcoming and it was really a tough time for me. And I knew that I needed help. And I knew that I didn't have a healthy boundary with cannabis at the time. So I just, when I met my husband, it was, I use cannabis. I use weed to just kind of escape, to be a vegetable, to kind of like get through the motions. I After my first marriage and that marriage ended, I used it to cope. I used it to just kind of feel numb, and so it put a very negative connotation in the beginning of my relationship. And now, how do I navigate those things? Being a mom and being fully, you know, calm and collective in those things. So that's when I started to explore a lot of different treatments, and including cannabis, and integrating that into my life, and it became a game changer for my mental health journey. And that's what I found for me. Cannabis offered a relief to help me take a critical step towards healing. And that critical step towards healing was facing those childhood traumas, facing those things. And for some people, they're like, well, what childhood traumas? For me, a lot of it was emotional neglect. My parent was there, but they weren't present. Um, they did the best that they could with what they got, with what they knew. And we always joke and say, "Oh, mom's the OG, mom's the OG," because she was the hustler. She's the original OG hustler, and truly, that's what it is. If she could go back to her ways today, and she says all the time when we get into a financial pinch, she's like, you know what? If I can go out and hustle and go make some money and sell some dope and go do what she needs to do, we'll be fine. Because that's all she knew, and that's what her parents had taught her. That's the lifestyle that she was grown up into, and so there's no way of getting out of that unless you kind of try really hard. And she did the best that she could to get us to that next stepping stone. And so I feel like for my kids, it's like I got to get them to that next stepping stone. But in that healing process of it, like how do you integrate things into your life, especially cannabis? My children don't really know that I smoke. I hide it very well, not because I'm ashamed that I am a cannabis patient or that I have those things, but I believe there are healthy boundaries. Now, say when they get older and they would like to partake, I would not be against it as long as it's in a controlled environment, in a way that I feel that we have healthy conversations about it. Um, they truly needed it in a more of a holistic way. But as time goes on, you turn to navigate that judgment. And I had to navigate the judgment and the backlash from others who didn't understand that cannabis could be part of my healing process. I documented my depression online for my followers, for everyone to see. And it was like I went into therapy, and I really went to therapy and was like, I've been in therapy for 10 years, in and out, and I don't feel like I've gained anything. I feel like I'm just sitting on a couch and someone's going to tell me, how does that make you feel? Like, no, I don't want to sit there and use that jargon and for you just to hype me up on medication. And I really went into my therapist and was like, I do not want meds. I do not want it. I am going to partake in cannabis. I am going to use this. And so, with my therapist, they didn't agree, but we went session by session, and they're like, okay, well, and they asked me one time, just come to session sober. I was like, all right. So I came my second session, I was completely sober. And then we used it in other ways to conflict that. So for me, as I went through intense trauma therapy, and what that entails is really looking back into your childhood and your relationships and your deep dives. And like we all joke, Alicia and I, is like, oh, we have mommy issues. it's not in a way to bash our mother. I think that she did the best that she could. I think now as an adult, I can truly say that I love and I respect her in a way that I truly didn't. And when you go through a depression like that, where you have a mental illness mixed in with a little bit of postpartum, um, it gets to a level where you don't feel worth anything. You don't feel like you are. And the way I've explained it most of all is, on the outside looking in, I had it all. I had it all. I just got married. I had a new baby. I just moved into a new um, home. I worked. I had a really good job. I had it all. I moved my mom in with me. I had the things that I needed. But something snapped in me. I was just utterly miserable. I started to nitpick and self-sabotage my relationship because I was like, oh, well, they're going to leave. That's fine. Let them leave. And I really couldn't blame them for any of that aspect of it. But when I went to trauma therapy, it was like, no, why am I pushing my partner away? Why am I telling my partner all the worst things you can tell someone in a marriage? I don't need you. I'm only with you because we have kids. Like, every aspect of what could go wrong in a marriage. And I think that for me, it was like, do I want to fix it? Do I want to truly gaslight my partner into thinking that they are the problem when it was me? And now I have to deal with the repercussions of those things and face those traumas head on. And it's really difficult for most people to understand that. How can you be a present parent? How can you be a present mom? And I try to tell people all the time, I was like, no, like, I can function without it. But there are days where I need to smoke. I need to be medicated. I need to know when I'm overstimulated, when I'm like feel utterly ugh and everything else. So let's talk about the misconceptions of using cannabis and how that makes you a bad mother when it doesn't. It's a stereotype that many of us cannabis patients face, but here's the truth. Being a cannabis patient does not diminish our ability to be present, loving, engaging parents. It's about responsible use, and it's just like any other medication. It's just like any other medication. You use it in small doses. There's a time and there's a place. Everything is put up in a fractional way out of the reach of your children. I wait until the kids go to bed. I partake. I wake up early in the morning before I get breakfast and things and everything just like all ready for the day. And I have my wake and bake. If I'm on my way to work, there's that. But since I have very small children, they don't really see those habits, and I don't partake in nicotine, I don't smoke, so it just it's able to have that finesse. Now as they get older and they put two and two together, I'm going to have be more responsible in that sense, but I have everything put up. My room is a safe space. My children know that they're not allowed in my room, and I'm still able to be a present parent. And throughout my journey, I've learned some valuable lessons in managing my illness, my mental health, and still being there for my children. And I want to share some of those tips with you and strategies with you in case you're facing some similar challenges. So, the number one thing, you need to find a safe space for your cannabis to put it up. That's if it's concentrates, that's if it's flour, that's if it's edibles, anything. I have a lockbox that I keep all of my pipes, my essentials, as you would, my wraps, my everything, all in a lockbox in my room. It's locked up. Nobody can get to it. The kids can't even reach it. And there's that. Knowing the time and place, there are some people who they don't mind partaking in front of their children. For me, I think my husband and I have we had a discussion early on where were his boundaries when it came to my cannabis use, and how did we want to display this to our kids. And I think that if you're in a relationship and your partner and you're co-parenting, that should be something that you totally take into consideration. You take those wins, you take the losses, and you kind of navigate that into an ongoing conversation. There are times where I've smoked and I've offended my partner, and they're like, nah, I think you should have waited until we got home, or I think you should have waited until this, or I don't think you should have smoked. I think you should have just took the edible and let's go to the park and let's go do what we need to do. So those are ongoing conversations that you need to have with your partner, that you need to just let loose, and truly think. And then also you need to think of how do you want to perceive it. Cannabis is being changed from a Schedule 1 drug to a Schedule 3 drug. It's in this weird transitional period right now in the United States. So it's, as our society changes, as everything else pivots to that, I think that it would have more open and honest conversations. And how would you want your medical journey, your holistic journey, or if you are just a recreational user, you are a pot smoking mama, how do you want that to be perceived? So I've already readied and booted myself into having those conversations with my children, how, what am I going to do when he's 10 to 15 years old. Now, because to be 10, he wants to smoke, I don't think that I'm going to. But I think at 15, 16, when we all experiment with, sexuality and relationships and drug use and things like that, I think that, yes, I would roll up a joint and smoke with my kid. Because I think for me, it was very, growing up, for me, it was very not taboo. My uncles would just roll a joint, smoke in the backyard. And I remember us being maybe 13, 14 years old, and they'd stick their leftover, blunts and stuff, their real roaches in the awnings, to hide them from my grandma. She's like, I don't want that shit in my house. I don't want. She's like, I just smells at my house. So I think we would just come around and take them all and try it that way. But I don't want that perception for my kids. I want to have that open and honest conversation of okay, well, this is my medication. I have schizoaffective disorder. Mom who experiences some hallucinations, and I hear things that aren't there sometimes. So for me, I need this plant medicine. This is medication for me. This is how I function in my day-to-day life. And there's a lot of misconception around it. And I think that those are healthy conversations to have with your children as they get older. And just boundaries in general. I think around cannabis use and being a patient and whatever illness you're treating, whatever, if it's physical or psychological, or just to have, function, because a lot of people think, oh, you're a cannabis patient, you're just vegged out on the couch and have a shit ton of munchies, you're going to be fucking lit as fuck. No, it's not. I literally cannot function sometimes. I can't think straight, and cannabis helps me focus, hone in, and get the job and the tasks that I need to do today. I have to do laundry, I have to clean the house, I have to, make it a podcast episode, I have to have meetings, I have things. But if I don't have that wake and bake in the morning, I don't think sometimes I can function. There are mornings where I wake up and I feel great, and I don't need to have a dab or anything else, smoke some flower. I don't need to have that at that moment. And that is the number one thing that you can have, is healthy boundary around cannabis. And I've struggled with it, and I've shared in very previous episodes of, how to get to that, weird wanting place. So that's just a little slice of my personal journey as a cannabis patient and a mother. But remember that everybody's struggle and everybody's individual journey in parenthood is completely, utterly different. Their struggles are valid. Their struggles are incredible, and in managing their health. A lot of it for us women that are battered, women that are just can't seem to find that self-love. Um, when you have children, you're fulfilling that void in your kids. You're putting all of who you are into another person. And a lot of people just think that you can't be a present mom. No, I think I could be a great mom. I think I'm more focused. I think I can have, healthy, lovely boundaries with my children. I've had wonderful conversations with my children, high and sober. Um, I've had wonderful conversations, with my mother. I think I've learned to navigate those parenting challenges. Like my children are 5 and 2. So as a mother of small children, I think that being able to say, yeah, I'm a good mom. I'm a good mom doesn't classify you as saying you're a bad mom because you need this plant to get through your day. You need this plant to eat. You need this plant because you're fighting an illness, and your body just cannot function for the day. Can't do its normal functionality. You can't even get out of bed. So you're just gonna partake, light it up, smoke, and feel good and get your body to where it goes. A lot of people don't realize the actual holistic and plant-based, healing properties of cannabis. And I feel like the more and more we go into it, the more and more that our society will change in that process. But for your mamas out there, you're a good mom. Just because you need this plant to get to the next phase of your life does not make you a bad mom. As long as you've created healthy and loving boundaries with it and have it integrated into your routine in a way that is not harmful or hurtful to your child. I know that every state in the United States is different. They have different laws and different things. But a lot of the just, shame of it all is, oh, you're high, so you can't be a good mom. And I was like, no, I'm high, but half the time my kids don't even know that I'm high because I'm out baking cookies and building fucking 3 stacked block towers until I can fit a ball on top of it. I am sitting there all chilled on the couch watching 20 Disney princess movies, be cuddled up on the couch because I'm allowed to be a present mother. I'm allowed to just be loving, and my mind shuts off where I can actually be in the moment and be present. And I think that that's just a wonderful and beautiful experience that most parents do enjoy sober. And I guess I want mothers to know that even though this is integrated into your life, don't take what Karen and Susan say. You are a good mom, and yes, you're not going to give the secondhand smoke if you're not that person that's literally has a joint and just blowing it in your kid's face and letting them hook and inhale. Like, that's what everyone's perception of it is. When it's like, no, I need this plant. I smoke this plant because I have completely, utterly racing thoughts, and my mind needs to be quiet because my anxiety is high and I cannot function and I get overstimulated, and I take those frustrations and those anxieties and out on my small children, which they have no right to endure the backlash of my adult problems. So yes, I use this plant to function. I use this to make sure that I am present and willing to be that way. So just know that your struggles are valid and that every parent is incredible in managing their mental health. So thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Sister Said podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation and found it helpful, share it with your fellow podcast enthusiasts, cannabis loving parents out there. And as always, stay lit, stay loving, and keep the sesh going. Alicia will be back with us next time. And until then, take care. I love you guys. And don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, like and share, and on Instagram. And don't forget to keep up with us on Instagram for all of our latest updates, requests, and we're getting a lot of new guests coming in the next coming weeks. So don't forget to follow us at Sister Sesh Podcast, and we will see you there. So stay lit, motherfuckers.